The Snowflake Snatcher. Far away, in a magical forest, there once lived a grandmother and a grandfather. They looked like ordinary grandparents, but they were not ordinary at all. For you see, Mama Louisa and Papa Louis had the recipes for happiness etched upon their hearts. Season after season, year after year, they would share their happiness with their friends. When Father Winter moved into the magical forest, draping the woods with his heavy cloak of snow and decorating the trees with his icicle ornaments, Mama and Papa knew it was time to prepare for another magical forest Christmas. Papa spent his days singing Christmas songs and searching for the perfect snowflake. He walked up the hills and down the hills, all the while singing and searching for this very special icicle ornament. And when he found it, he carried it home and put it on the tippy top of their Christmas tree.
Oh, snowflake, how lovely are your icicles. Oh, snowflake, how lovely are your icicles. You only come in winter time, when Father Winter rings his chime. Oh, snowflake, how lovely are your icicles.
Mama spent her days baking Christmas cookies. And as she baked these cookies, she was filled with thankfulness for her forest friends. She remembered their kind deeds, their cheerful spirits, and their generous hearts. It had been a good year in the magical forest, and she wanted to bake her very best cookies for the forest friends. And while she baked, she sang her baking song.
'Tis the season to be baking, fa la 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 la. Smell the oven cookies making, fa la 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 la.
The forest friends were comfy and warm in their home nests, and they dreamt of winter sweets and holiday treats. When the bird sisters, the squirrel brothers, and their new friend, Mr. Crumpleton, heard Papa walking through the forest singing his snowflake song, and they smelled Mama's cookies, they quickly hurried to the cozy little cottage in the woods, where goodness was always being stirred up. Mama and Papa met their forest friends at the door with a tray of Christmas cookies. And there were so many cookies, sugar cookies, chocolate cookies, and snowflake cookies. Mr. Crumpleton had never seen so many cookies, and he became very hungry. In fact, he was so hungry that when it was his turn to take a cookie from the cookie tray, he snatched them all up. The bird sisters and the squirrel brothers all cried when the cookies disappeared, and they looked to Mama and Papa for help. It was a cold day in winter when those cookies were snatched. Mama and Papa had been singing and baking that day, but when their cookies were all gone, they knew just what to do and just what to say. Mama stirred up a fresh batch of snowflake cookies, and Papa told a story that I'll share with you today. The Snowflake Snatcher. Every year, on the darkest of nights, the solstice snowflake falls from the sky. It falls and it floats and it drifts along past farms and cities and very small towns, over housetops and chimneys, towers and bridges, until it reaches its home in the sky over the Christmas tree village. And there it remains, suspended in flight like a Christmas tree light. The snow sprites wait all year long to answer Father Winter's call. When they hear Father Winter ring his chime and they see the solstice snowflake up in the sky, they know it is time to gather together and help Father Winter scatter snowy weather. On this very special solstice night, the snow sprites will swirl and spin up in the sky, sending down Father Winter's frosty magic surprise. But there was a year long ago, on the darkest of nights, when the solstice snowflakes seemed to be extraordinarily large. In fact, the solstice snowflake was so sizable, so big, that it blocked the view of the glowing moon. And so, as the snow sprites journeyed together to the Christmas tree village to help Father Winter scatter snowy weather, the townspeople gathered together just to marvel at the size of this spectacular solstice snowflake. And all the while, snowflake seekers traveled through the night to see this solstice snowflake suspended in flight like an enormous Christmas tree light. The solstice snowflake shined brighter and brighter, and the dark night sky grew considerably lighter. The townspeople and the snowflake seekers knew they were in for a winter surprise. The trees clapped their leaves, the wind whistled, and the solstice snowflake lit up the sky. But Simon the Snowflake Snatcher, he saw the light too. Simon loved snowflakes, and he just had to see this bright light of frozen dew. So he flew on his candy cane over cities and towns, housetops and chimneys, ridges and bridges, until he caught sight of the snowflake suspended in flight over the Christmas tree village. And he decided to snatch it. He flew over the village 4 separate times until he was close enough to stretch out his net and snatch the best snowflake yet. The solstice snowflake was tethered and caught and pulled out of sight as the snowflake seekers watched. The cold night sky grew very, very dark. The snow sprites, the townspeople, and the snowflake seekers were broken-hearted. They knew that without the solstice snowflake up in the sky, there wouldn't be a frosty winter surprise. Simon whistled with glee as he carried that snowflake back to his home in the tree. But when Simon put the solstice snowflake on the top of his tree, the tree trembled under the weight of this enormous snowflake. You see, Simon didn't know that without the solstice snowflake, there wouldn't be any snow. It was the darkest night of the year when the solstice snowflake was snatched. Old Father Winter had been carving icicles that day. But when the solstice snowflake was taken, he put his tools away and he called up a north wind, just as quick as could be, to take him to Simon's home in the tree. Father Winter called Simon to sit upon his knee so he could explain the secret of the solstice snowflake. Without the solstice snowflake lighting up the sky, the snow sprites won't know it's time to swirl and spin and gather together to spread snowy weather. The snowflake is for sharing, and that's the way it has to be. It isn't right to hide the solstice snowflake way up in your tree. Simon understood that snatching snowflakes wasn't really very good. It would be better to share the solstice snowflake with everyone so that all could play a part in the solstice snowfall fun. Simon knew just what he had to do. He jumped on his candy cane and he pulled the solstice snowflake over bridges and towers, chimneys and housetops, very small towns, cities and farms, until he reached the Christmas tree village. When Simon placed the solstice snowflake back in the sky, the trees clapped their leaves, the wind whistled, and the snowflake seekers sang a snowfall song. Simon, the snowflake snatcher, became Father Winter's helper that day, and together they scattered scores of snowflakes over cities and towns, housetops and chimneys, ridges and bridges, and the Christmas tree village. Simon, Simon, snowflake snatcher, sprinkling snow and cheer and laughter, Father Winter's helping hand, spreading wintry goodness through all the land. Snowflakes are for sharing. That's the perfect melody. When Papa finished telling the story, Mama came out of the kitchen carrying a basket filled with snowflake cookies. "Dear children, Mama," Louisa kindly concluded, "cookies and presents are meant to be given, not taken. This season is for sharing with friends both near and far. So just like Simon, be a bright and shining star." Mr. Crumpleton, filled with a giving spirit, reached into his sack and he shared all those cookies that he'd snatched. A scent of goodness filled the cottage that day, and no amount of snatching could take it away. Friendship filled up every inch in that room as the forest friends sang the solstice snowfall tune. Dancing and whirling through cold winter's night, sharing with others we sing and we shine. Each is so perfect, unique in design. Father Winter's frosty magic surprise. One snowflake is just magic. 2 snowflakes start to glow, but many snowflakes can cover the forest in snow. Remember, we shine brightest when we share with others. The end. Happy solstice snowfall.